Jake Martinez sat on the metal bench inside the holding cell and looked at his hands. Even through the thick gloves of his armor, he could feel the slight vibration of the ship's engines. Everything felt lighter here. When he moved, he almost bounced. The gravity was wrong, weak compared to what his body was used to. He had been a prisoner for 3 days now. The cell was not like the prisons back on Earth. It was clean and bright, with smooth white walls that glowed with soft light. There was a bed, a desk, and even a small bathroom. If someone had told him this was a hotel room instead of a jail, he might have believed them. But the door was locked and armed guards stood outside. Jake was not alone. 12 other humans were scattered in cells along the same corridor. They were all Marines from the Horizon's Edge, the human diplomatic ship that had come to meet the Valoran Empire for the first time. The mission was supposed to be simple. Arrive, say hello, exchange gifts, and start building a friendship between two civilizations. It had not gone as planned. The Valorans had been suspicious from the start. When they saw the human ship, they called it a warship. When they saw the human Marines in their powered armor, they called them an invasion force. Before anyone could explain, Valoran military ships had surrounded the Horizon's Edge. They had demanded the Marines surrender and come aboard the Valoran flagship for questioning. The human captain had agreed, hoping to calm the situation. So Jake and his squad had left their ship and entered Valoran custody. That was 3 days ago, and they were still waiting for someone to realize this was all a big mistake. Jake stood up and walked to the transparent wall that served as the front of his cell. He could see across the corridor to where Lieutenant Kate Morrison was being held. She was sitting at her desk, reading something on a datapad. Kate was his commanding officer, a smart woman who had been in the military for 10 years. She had told them all to stay calm, be polite, and wait for the diplomats to fix things. Jake trusted Kate, but waiting was hard. The Valoran flagship was huge, bigger than any human ship ever built. It held thousands of crew members and had enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The Valorans were proud of their ship and their empire. They controlled over 300 star systems and had been traveling through space for thousands of years. To them, humans were newcomers, primitives who had just barely figured out how to leave their own solar system. Jake had learned about the Valorans during the journey to their space. They came from a planet with low gravity, about 40% of Earth's normal pull. This made them tall and thin, with long limbs and delicate features. They moved with grace and elegance like dancers, but they were also fragile. A fall that would bruise a human could break a Valoran's bones. Because of this, the Valorans had trouble understanding why humans wore powered armor. To them, the armor looked like machines that humans needed just to survive. They thought humans were weak creatures who relied on technology to do everything. This was wrong, but no one had explained it to them yet. Jake heard footsteps in the corridor. He turned to see a group of Valorans approaching. There were at least a dozen of them, all dressed in flowing robes of silver and blue. In the center of the group was a young woman who stood out from the rest. She was tall, even for a Valoran, with skin that had a slight purple tint. Her eyes were large and golden, and her hair was white and braided into complex patterns. She wore a gown that seemed to shimmer when she moved, and a thin crown of silver rested on her head. Jake knew immediately that this was someone important. The group stopped in front of his cell. The young woman stepped forward and looked at him with curious eyes. She studied his armor, his helmet, his weapons. Then she smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who thought they knew everything. "So this is a human," she said in perfect English. Her voice was soft but carried an edge of amusement. "I have read about your species. You come from a planet with such terrible conditions that you must wear these machines just to move around. How difficult that must be." Jake did not respond. Kate had taught them to be polite and not make trouble. The young woman circled around to get a better view. "I am Princess Vera Solantis, daughter of Empress Kirani and heir to the Valoran throne. I have come to see the humans everyone is talking about. You have caused quite a disturbance." "We did not mean to cause trouble, Your Highness," Jake said carefully. "There was a misunderstanding. We came in peace." Peace, Vera repeated, looking at his armor again. Yet you wear weapons and metal suits. You look like soldiers preparing for war, not diplomats preparing for tea. We wear armor because it is standard procedure, Jake explained. We always wear it when we go to new places. It is for protection, not for combat. Protection from what? Vera asked, tilting her head. Are you so fragile that you need all of this just to feel safe? One of her advisors, an older Valoran man with gray hair, leaned close and whispered something in her ear. Vera nodded and looked back at Jake. My advisor tells me that humans come from a high-gravity world. Is this true? Yes, Your Highness. Earth has stronger gravity than your homeworld, Vera laughed, a light musical sound. Of course it does. That explains so much. Your bodies are squat and dense because your planet crushes you down. You wear these machines because, without them, you cannot even support your own weight properly. How sad. Jake felt his jaw tighten. He took a slow breath and reminded himself to stay calm. Vera continued, clearly enjoying herself. I have studied many species and humans are quite unique. Most civilizations from high-gravity worlds never make it to space. They die out or destroy themselves. But somehow, you managed to crawl your way up. Though I suppose you did it by building machines to do everything for you. Without your toys, you would be helpless. With respect, Your Highness, that is not accurate, Jake said, keeping his voice level. No? Then tell me, human, what would happen if you removed that armor right now? In our comfortable, civilized gravity, could you even stand? Or would you collapse like a puppet with its strings cut? Jake looked at her for a long moment. He could feel his anger rising, but he pushed it down. Kate's voice came through his helmet's communication system, quiet enough that only he could hear. Jake, do not do anything stupid. Stay calm, but Jake was tired. Tired of being locked up. Tired of being misunderstood. Tired of being mocked. Your Highness, he said slowly, I think there has been a serious misunderstanding about humans and our capabilities. Has there? Vera said with a smile. Then please enlighten me. If you truly believe we are helpless without our armor, I would like to offer a demonstration. Kate's voice came through again, more urgent this time. Jake, no, do not do this. Vera's eyes lit up with interest. A demonstration? How intriguing. What did you have in mind? I will remove my armor completely, Jake said. All of it, then I will perform any physical task you choose. If I fail, if I collapse or cannot complete the task, I will formally apologize to you and your empire. I will admit that humans are weak and that we rely on our machines. And if you succeed? Vera asked, leaning forward. If I succeed, you grant me one request. Nothing unreasonable, just one simple thing. Vera's advisors immediately began talking to her in their own language, probably telling her this was a bad idea. But she held up her hand for silence. I accept your challenge, she said. It will be entertaining, if nothing else. Guards, open his cell. The transparent wall disappeared with a soft hum. Jake stepped out into the corridor. Kate was standing at her cell wall, shaking her head at him. This is a mistake, she said through the communication system. Maybe, Jake replied quietly. But I am tired of being called weak. Vera clapped her hands together. Wonderful. Now for your task. You will walk from here to the observation deck on the upper level. It is approximately half a kilometer. You will carry one of our standard equipment packs, which weighs 30 kilograms. For a human in your condition, this should be simple. Unless, of course, I am right about your species. Jake nodded. I accept. But first, the armor must come off. All of it. I want to see the creature inside the machine. Jake began removing his armor. He unsealed the helmet first and lifted it off. The Valorans gasped. They had expected something different, something smaller and weaker. Instead, they saw a man with dark hair, brown eyes, and a strong jaw. His face was covered with a few days of stubble, and his expression was determined. Next came the chest plate, the arm guards, the leg plates. Each piece of armor was heavy, made of advanced materials, and filled with technology. The full suit weighed 85 kilograms. More than most Valorans weighed themselves. As Jake removed each piece, more of his body was revealed. He wore a simple black undersuit beneath the armor, and it showed his build clearly. His shoulders were broad, his arms were thick with muscle, and his legs were like tree trunks. He was built for Earth's crushing gravity, and his body showed it. When the last piece of armor fell away, Jake stood in the corridor in just his undersuit and boots. He rolled his shoulders and stretched his arms. In the weak Valoran gravity, he felt light, almost like he could fly. Princess Vera stared at him. Her smile had faded. She had expected a fragile creature, something pitiful. Instead, she was looking at something. Princess Vera walked ahead with her entourage of advisors and guards. Jake followed behind them, the equipment pack resting easily on his shoulder. The corridor was wide and tall, designed for Valorans who like space and light. Soft blue lights lined the walls, and the floor was smooth and polished. Jake noticed how the Valorans moved. They walked with long, graceful strides, their bodies swaying slightly with each step. In their low gravity, every movement looked like a dance. But Jake also noticed that they were not moving very fast. To them, this was probably a normal walking pace. To Jake, it felt painfully slow. He matched their speed anyway. This was not a race. It was a test, and he wanted to pass it in a way that made his point clear. Behind him, he could hear other footsteps. He glanced back and saw that several of his fellow prisoners had been released from their cells. Kate was there, still wearing her armor, along with Ben Cooper, the team's diplomatic officer. They were following at a distance, watching everything carefully. Kate's voice came through his earpiece again. "Jake, your heart rate is normal. Your breathing is normal. How are you feeling?" "I feel fine," Jake said quietly. "Better than fine, actually. This gravity is nothing." "Good, but remember, this is not just about proving you can walk. This is about making a good impression. Stay calm and stay professional." "I will," Jake promised. The group moved through the ship. They passed other Valorans who stopped to stare at the strange sight. A human without armor, walking freely among the princess and her guards. Some of them whispered to each other. Some of them looked afraid. Jake understood why. To them, he probably looked like a monster. His dense musculature, his heavy bone structure, his compact build, all of it was designed for a world much harsher than theirs. On Earth, he was just an average soldier. Here, he was something alien and potentially dangerous. Princess Vera looked back at him several times. Each time, her expression was different. At first, she looked confident, even smug. She still believed she was right about humans. But as they continued walking and Jake showed no signs of struggle, her confidence began to fade. Confusion replaced it, then something that might have been concern. One of her advisors, a thin Valoran woman with green eyes, spoke to her in a low voice. "Your Highness, perhaps we should reconsider. This human does not seem to be struggling at all." "We will continue as planned," Vera said. But her voice lacked its earlier certainty. They reached a lift that would take them to the upper levels. The doors opened with a soft chime, and everyone stepped inside. The lift was large enough to hold 20 Valorans comfortably, but with Jake's broader frame and the crowd of people, it felt a bit cramped. As the lift rose, Jake stood still and watched the numbers change on the display. His breathing was steady, his posture relaxed. The pack on his shoulder might as well have been empty. He adjusted his grip on it once, just to have something to do. One of the younger guards could not stop staring at Jake. Finally, he worked up the courage to speak. "Excuse me," the guard said in hesitant English. "May I ask a question?" Jake nodded. "Of course." "Your world, Earth, what is it like?" Jake thought about how to answer. "It is beautiful, but it is also dangerous. The gravity is more than twice what you have here. The atmosphere is thick with oxygen. The weather can change quickly, bringing storms that can destroy buildings. There are earthquakes, hurricanes, and tornadoes. The sun is bright and can burn your skin if you stay out too long." The guard's eyes widened. "That sounds terrible. How do you survive?" "We adapt," Jake said simply. "Humans are good at adapting. Our bodies became strong to handle the gravity. Our skin developed protection against the sun. Our immune systems learned to fight off countless diseases. We built shelters to protect us from the storms. We learned, we changed, and we survived." The lift doors opened and they stepped out into another corridor. This one had windows along one side, showing the vastness of space outside. Stars glittered. In the darkness and in the distance, Jake could see other ships from the Valoran fleet. "How much further?" Jake asked. "Another 200 meters, Vera said. She was watching him closely now, her golden eyes studying every detail. "Are you feeling tired yet?" "No, Your Highness, not at all." This was true. Jake felt like he could walk for hours. The low gravity made everything easier. His legs, which were used to carrying his full weight through Earth's heavy pull, barely felt the strain here. The pack, which would have been a moderate burden back home, felt like almost nothing. They continued walking. Jake noticed that some of the Valorans were starting to breathe harder. They were not used to walking this far without rest. In their society, people used transport carts or moving walkways for long distances. Physical endurance was not something they needed often. But Jake kept going, his pace steady and strong. He was not trying to show off. He was just walking the way he normally would. But to the Valorans, it must have looked incredible. A being from a death world, moving through their environment like it was nothing. Princess Vera called for a brief stop. Her advisors looked relieved. They gathered around her, fanning her with small devices and offering her water. She waved them away impatiently. "You may rest if you need to," she said to Jake, though it sounded more like a question. "I am fine, Your Highness. We can continue whenever you are ready." Vera's face flushed slightly, a darker purple shade spreading across her cheeks. Jake realized she was embarrassed. She was the one who needed rest, not him. The human she had. Mocked for being weak was showing more endurance than she was. Kate's voice came through the earpiece again. "Jake, I think you have made your point. The princess looks uncomfortable. Maybe offer her a graceful way out of this." Jake considered it. But before he could say anything, Vera straightened her posture and lifted her chin. "We continue," she declared. "I want to see this through to the end." They walked again. Jake fell into a steady rhythm, his boots making soft sounds on the polished floor. He focused on his breathing, keeping it slow and controlled. This was a basic technique they had taught him in basic training. Steady breath, steady pace, steady mind. As they walked, Jake thought about why he was doing this. It was not just about proving his own strength. It was about defending his entire species. The Valorans had made assumptions about humans based on incomplete information. They had seen the armor and assumed weakness. They had heard about Earth and assumed humanity was lucky to survive, but they did not understand the truth. Humans wore armor not because they needed it to survive, but because it made them even more effective. It was a tool, a weapon, an enhancement. Without it, humans were still formidable. With it, they were nearly unstoppable. This was important for the Valorans to understand. Because if they continued to think humans were weak, they might make a terrible mistake. They might try to push humanity around, might try to control or dominate them. And that would not end well for anyone. So Jake walked. He walked to show them what humans really were. He walked to earn their respect. He walked to open a door to real understanding between two civilizations. They passed through a large common area where off-duty crew members were relaxing. When they saw the princess and her entourage, they stood and bowed. But when they saw Jake, their reactions were different. Some looked amazed. Some looked worried. Word had clearly spread about what was happening. A young Valoran child, no more than 6 years old by human standards, pointed at Jake and asked his mother, "Is that a human? Why is he so big?" The mother quickly pulled the child away, but Jake had heard. He smiled slightly. From the child's perspective, he probably did look big. Compared to the slender Valorans, his build was massive and solid. Finally, they reached a set of large doors marked with symbols Jake did not recognize. Princess Vera stopped in front of them and turned to face him. "Beyond these doors is the observation deck," she said. "It is where we study the stars and plan our journeys. If you can reach the center of the deck, you will have completed your task." "Understood," Jake said. The doors opened and they entered the observation deck. It was a massive room with a curved ceiling made entirely of transparent material. Stars blazed above them, and the sight was so beautiful that Jake paused for just a moment to take it in. Then he continued walking. The deck was large, with various stations and equipment scattered throughout. The center was marked by a raised platform with a holographic display showing star charts and navigation data. Jake walked straight toward it. His boots made echoing sounds in the large space. Every eye was on him. The Valorans who worked on the observation deck had stopped what they were doing to watch. He reached the center platform and stepped up onto it. Then he carefully lowered the equipment pack and set it down with a soft thump. He straightened up and turned to face Princess Vera. "Task completed, Your Highness." The room was silent. Vera stood at the entrance to the deck, her face pale. Her advisors looked shocked, the guards looked nervous, and the crew members whispered to each other in their own language. Jake was not even breathing hard. His heart rate had barely increased. He stood on the platform like it was the most natural thing in the world, waiting for the princess to respond. Finally, Vera walked forward. Her steps were slow and measured. When she reached the platform, she looked up at Jake with an expression Princess Vera led Jake and the others to a private meeting room adjacent to the observation deck. The room was smaller and more comfortable, with soft seating and a large table in the center. Through the windows, the stars continued to shine, providing a peaceful backdrop to their conversation. Jake sat down carefully, aware that the furniture was designed for Valorans. The chair felt fragile under his weight, but it held. Vera sat across from him, with her advisors on either side. Kate and Ben joined them, still wearing their armor, creating an interesting contrast with Jake's more vulnerable appearance. "Tell me about your planet," Vera said. She had lost all of her earlier arrogance. Now she seemed genuinely curious, almost eager to learn. "Start from the beginning. What is Earth really like?" Jake gathered his thoughts. "Earth is the third planet from our sun. It has one moon, which we simply call the moon. The planet is covered mostly by water, with large land masses we call continents. The gravity is 2.5 times stronger than what you have on this ship." One of the advisors, the older man, who had been with Vera from the start, wrote notes on a datapad. 2.5 times, he repeated. "That means a Valoran visiting Earth would weigh more than twice their normal weight." "Yes," Jake confirmed. "Most Valorans would find it difficult to even stand on Earth, at least without significant training and assistance. The pressure would be intense on your bones and organs." Vera looked troubled. "But you live there naturally. Your body's adapted to handle this pressure from birth." "Not just from birth," Jake explained. "From millions of years of evolution. Our ancestors, the early humans, developed in this environment. Their bones became dense and strong. Their muscles became thick and powerful. Their hearts became efficient at pumping blood against the heavy pull of gravity. Everything about human biology is designed to handle Earth's conditions." Ben leaned forward, adding to the explanation. "It is not just gravity. Earth has a thick atmosphere with high oxygen content. This allows us to generate a lot of energy quickly. The planet also has extreme weather patterns. Temperatures can range from far below freezing to hot enough to cause serious harm. Humans learn to survive in deserts, mountains, frozen tundras, and tropical jungles." "How is this possible?" asked the female advisor. "Most species evolve in one type of environment and struggle to adapt to others." "You are saying humans can live almost anywhere?" "We are adaptable," Kate said from behind her helmet. "It is one of our defining traits. Humans spread across every continent on Earth into every climate zone. We learn to wear different clothes, build different shelters, and eat different foods. Our bodies have some natural ability to adjust, but mostly we used our intelligence to overcome challenges." Vera shook her head slowly. "This is remarkable and terrifying. A species that can survive anywhere, that is built to withstand crushing gravity and harsh conditions. No wonder you made it to space despite your disadvantages." "Disadvantages?" Jake repeated, confused. "Yes," Vera said. "It must take enormous amounts of energy to escape a planet with such strong gravity. Your rockets must be incredibly powerful. The cost must be staggering." Jake nodded. "It is difficult. Early human spaceflight was dangerous and expensive. Many people died trying to leave Earth, but we kept trying because we wanted to explore, to see what was beyond our world. But why? Vera asked. If your planet is so challenging, if survival itself requires so much effort, why spend resources on space travel? Why not focus on making Earth more comfortable? This was a question Jake had not expected. He thought about it carefully before answering. Because humans always want to see what is over the next hill, he said. It is in our nature. We are curious. We are explorers. Throughout our history, humans have traveled to every corner of Earth, even when it was dangerous or seemed impossible. Climbing the highest mountains, crossing the widest oceans, journeying to the coldest poles. We do these things not because they are easy, but because they challenge us. Vera listened intently. So space travel is just another mountain to climb? In a way, yes. But it is more than that. We wanted to know if we were alone in the universe. We wanted to meet other species, to learn from them and share our knowledge. We wanted to be part of something bigger than ourselves. The older advisor spoke up. And now you have found us. But tell me, when you first put on that armor, what was its purpose? Was it designed for space combat? Jake shook his head. The armor serves multiple purposes. It protects us from hostile environments like vacuum or toxic atmospheres. It enhances our strength, allowing us to lift heavier objects and move faster. It provides weapons for defense. And yes, it is designed for combat situations if necessary. But that is not why we wore it when we came to meet you. Then why? Vera asked. Standard procedure? Kate answered. We wear armor when entering unknown situations because we do not know what we might face. Dangerous atmosphere, hostile wildlife, or simply rough terrain. The armor keeps us safe while we assess the situation. But you look like you were preparing for war, Vera said. To you, perhaps, Ben said. But consider this, Your Highness. When you sent your diplomatic ship to meet us, it was a military vessel with weapons and shields. You brought guards? Was that because you wanted war? Or because you wanted to be prepared for any possibility? Vera was quiet for a moment. I see your point. We judged your actions by our standards without understanding your perspective. And we should have been clearer about our intentions, Jake admitted. First contact is difficult. Both sides are nervous, both sides are careful, mistakes happen. One of the Valoran crew members entered the room and whispered something to the older advisor. He nodded and turned to Vera. Your Highness, word of. What happened on the observation deck has spread throughout the ship. The crew is talking about the human who walked without armor. Some are frightened. Vera frowned. Frightened? Why? Because they are realizing what humans are capable of. If one human without armor can do what he did, what could a squad of armored humans do in combat? Jake saw where this was going. I did not mean to frighten anyone. I just wanted to correct a misunderstanding. But you have revealed a truth that cannot be ignored, the advisor said. Humans are physically formidable in ways we did not anticipate. Your species evolved in conditions that would kill most civilized races. You are naturally strong, naturally tough, naturally dangerous. We are not dangerous unless threatened, Jake said firmly. Yes, humans can fight. Yes, we can be deadly when we need to be. But we prefer peace. We prefer cooperation. We came here to make friends, not enemies. Vera stood and walked to the window. She looked out at the stars for a long time before speaking. I believe you, she said finally. I believe you came in peace. But you must understand how this looks from our perspective. The galaxy has never seen a species like yours. Species from high-gravity worlds either never develop advanced technology, or they do not survive long enough to reach space. But humans did both. You dragged yourselves up from a death world and made it to the stars. Death world? Jake repeated. Is that what you call Earth? That is what we will call it now, Vera said. Because from a Valoran perspective, that is what it is. A planet that would kill us quickly if we tried to live there unprotected, but to you, it is home. It is normal. You do not think of it as dangerous because you have never known anything else. This gave Jake a strange feeling. He had always thought of Earth as beautiful, as welcoming. It was the only home humanity had ever known. To hear it described as a death world seemed wrong. But from Vera's perspective, he supposed it was accurate. There are other implications, the female advisor said. If humans are this physically capable, what does that mean for future interactions? Trade negotiations, treaties, disputes over territory. If humans can bring soldiers who are each worth 10 of ours in combat, how do we maintain balance? You maintain balance through respect, Kate said. You do not try to push us around, and we do not try to push you around. You treat us as equals, and we do the same. Physical strength is not everything. You have technology we do not have, knowledge we want to learn, allies we have not met. There is plenty of room for cooperation. But there must be some who will fear you, Vera said. Some who will see humans as a threat to be eliminated rather than a partner to be embraced. That is true of any new species entering the galactic community, Ben said. There are always those who resist change. But most civilizations are reasonable. They will see the benefits of friendship with humanity and choose cooperation over conflict. I hope you are right, Vera said. Because after what I witnessed today, I know that war with humanity would be catastrophic. Even if we won, the cost would be unthinkable. Jake stood up, making everyone in the room tense slightly at his movement. He raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. Your Highness, I understand your concerns, but let me make something clear. Humans do not want war. We have had enough wars on our own planet to last us forever. We have seen what violence costs, what it destroys. We came to space hoping to leave that behind, to build something better. Yet you bring weapons and armor, the older advisor pointed out. We bring them as protection, not as threats. Consider this, if we wanted. The meeting with Princess Vera lasted for several hours. Jake, Kate, and Ben took turns explaining different aspects of human civilization. They talked about Earth's geography, human history, technological development, and cultural diversity. Vera listened to everything with intense focus, asking questions and taking notes on her datapad. By the time they finished, the ship's day cycle had ended and the artificial lights had dimmed to simulate night. Vera arranged for the humans to be moved to better quarters, proper guest rooms instead of holding cells. She also had their armor and equipment returned to them. Rest tonight, she told them as they prepared to leave. Tomorrow we will meet with my mother. She will want to hear everything we discussed, and she will want to meet the human who walked through my challenge. Jake nodded. I will be ready, Your Highness. As Jake walked back to his new quarters with Kate and Ben, he felt the exhaustion finally catching up to him. Not physical exhaustion from the walk, which had been easy, but mental exhaustion from the long conversation and the stress of the situation. You did well today, Kate said as they walked. I was worried when you accepted Vera's challenge, but it turned out to be the right move. I was worried too, Jake admitted. I acted on instinct. I was just tired of being called weak. It was more than instinct, Ben said. It was good diplomacy. You showed strength without aggression, confidence without arrogance. You made your point and then immediately pivoted to building understanding. That is textbook first contact procedure, even if you did not plan it that way. They reached Jake's new quarters. The room was much nicer than the cell, with a real bed, a desk, and a small sitting area. And there was even a window showing the stars outside. Get some sleep, Kate said. Tomorrow is going to be important. Jake agreed. He sealed the door and sat down on the bed, testing its strength. It held his weight without complaint. He lay back and stared at the ceiling. Thinking about everything that had happened, he thought about Princess Vera, and how much her attitude had changed in just one day. She had gone from mocking him to genuinely wanting to understand humanity. That was progress, real progress. But he also knew that one princess was not the same as an entire empire. The Empress and her advisors might have different reactions. Jake also thought about what Vera had said about Earth being a death world. It was a strange idea. He had never thought of his home planet as particularly dangerous. But then again, he had never tried to see it from an alien perspective. What was normal for humans might be terrifying for others. Eventually, Jake fell asleep, his body adapting quickly to the lower gravity as it always did. He woke the next morning to a soft chime at his door. When he opened it, he found a Valoran servant with a tray of food. The servant looked nervous but managed to speak. "Breakfast, sir?" "Compliments of Princess Vera. She had our nutritionists prepare foods that are safe for human consumption based on the data from your ship." Jake took the tray and thanked the servant. The food looked strange, colorful fruits and vegetables he did not recognize, but it smelled decent. He ate carefully, testing each item. Some tasted good, others were bland, but none made him sick. After breakfast, Jake put on his armor again. It felt different now, heavier than he remembered, even though nothing had changed. Yesterday, he had proven he did not need it, but today he wore it as a symbol. The armor represented human capability, human technology, human preparation. It was part of who he was as a Marine. Kate and Ben met him in the corridor, both also in full armor. They looked sharp and professional, ready for the important meeting ahead. "The princess sent word," Kate said. "The Empress will see us in 1 hour. We are to be escorted to the throne room." "Throne room?" Jake repeated. "Apparently the Valorans are big on ceremony," Ben explained. "This is not just a meeting, it is an official audience. We need to follow their protocols. That means bowing when we enter, addressing the Empress as Your Imperial Majesty, and speaking only when spoken to unless we have something urgent to say." "Understood," Jake said. He had dealt with formal situations before. The military had plenty of ceremonies and protocols. Princess Vera arrived with a squad of honor guards to escort them. She looked different today, wearing more elaborate robes and jewelry. Her expression was serious and formal, but when she looked at Jake, there was a hint of warmth in her eyes. "The Empress is very interested to meet you," she said. "I told her about yesterday. She has many questions." They walked through the ship to a section Jake had not seen before. The corridors here were wider and more decorated, with tapestries on the walls and sculptures in alcoves. This was clearly the royal area of the ship, where the Empress and her family lived. Finally, they reached a massive set of doors made of some kind of polished metal. Guards stood on either side, wearing ornate armor that looked more ceremonial than practical. When Vera approached, the guards opened the doors with a deep, resonant sound. The throne room was enormous. The ceiling was high and curved, covered in murals depicting Valoran history. Hundreds of courtiers lined the sides of the room, all dressed in their finest clothes. At the far end, on a raised platform, sat Empress Karani Solantis. She was older than her daughter, perhaps in her 50s by human standards, but still graceful and beautiful. Her robes were silver and gold, and she wore a crown that seemed to be made of pure light. Her presence was commanding, the kind of presence that came from decades of absolute authority. Vera led them forward. As they approached the throne, she bowed deeply. Jake, Kate, and Ben did the same, though their armor made it a bit awkward. "Your Imperial Majesty," Vera said, "I present the human delegation. Corporal Jake Martinez, Lieutenant Kate Morrison, and Diplomatic Officer Ben Cooper of the Earth vessel Horizon's Edge." Empress Karani looked at them with sharp, intelligent eyes. She studied each of them carefully before speaking. "Rise," she said. Her voice was clear and strong. "You are the humans who have caused such a stir on my ship. My daughter tells me remarkable things about you. She says you come from a world that would kill most species. She says you are far stronger than you appear. And she says you seek peace and understanding despite being imprisoned without cause. Is all of this true?" Jake stepped forward slightly. "Your Imperial Majesty, it is all true. We come from Earth, a world with high gravity and challenging conditions. We are physically adapted to handle those conditions. And we do seek peace. We came to your space hoping to establish friendly relations between our peoples. Yet you came in a warship," the Empress said. "You came wearing battle armor and carrying weapons. How is this peaceful?" "With respect, Your Majesty," Ben said, "we came in a diplomatic vessel that happens to have defensive capabilities. We wore armor because it is standard procedure for first contact situations. We carried weapons for protection, not for aggression. We meant no threat. And when my ship surrounded yours, you surrendered without fight. Why, if you are as formidable as my daughter suggests, you could have attempted escape or combat." "Because we did not want bloodshed," Kate answered. Because we believed we could resolve the situation peacefully. Because we trusted that your empire would be reasonable once the misunderstanding was cleared up. The Empress leaned back in her throne. My daughter tells me you removed your armor and walked through the ship carrying weight that should have been too much for you. She says you did this to prove a point. Tell me, Corporal Martinez, what point were you trying to make? Jake chose his words carefully. I was trying to show that humans are not weak or helpless without our technology, that we are capable and self-sufficient, but also that we are reasonable and willing to prove ourselves through peaceful demonstration rather than violence. And what would you have done if you had failed? If you had collapsed during your walk? Then I would have apologized and accepted that I was wrong. But I was confident I would not fail because I know my own capabilities. I knew your gravity would be comfortable for me. The Empress was quiet for a moment. Then she looked at her daughter. Vera, you spent much time speaking with these humans yesterday. What is your assessment of them? Vera stepped forward. Mother, I believe humans are unlike any species we have encountered. They are strong and resilient in ways that seem almost impossible. But they are also thoughtful, patient, and genuinely interested in peace. They could have responded to my insults with anger or violence. Instead, they responded with education and understanding. I recommend we establish formal diplomatic relations with humanity. That is a significant recommendation, the Empress said. It requires me to trust these newcomers, to welcome them into the galactic community, but I have concerns. If humans are this powerful, this dangerous, what is to stop them from becoming conquerors? What is to stop them from using their natural advantages to dominate others? Jake felt the weight of the question. This was the crucial moment. Everything depended on his answer. Your Imperial Majesty, he said slowly, humans have learned hard lessons about conquest and domination. We have a long history of war on our own planet. Humans fighting humans over territory, resources, and ideology. We have seen what war costs, we have counted the dead, we have mourned the destruction. And most of us have decided we do not want to repeat those mistakes. The journey back to the horizon's edge was different from the journey to the Valoran flagship 3 days earlier. This time, the humans were not prisoners being transported under guard. They were honored guests being escorted home with full ceremony. Jake sat in the transport shuttle with his entire squad. All 30 Marines were there, including Kate and Ben. Everyone was quiet, processing what had happened. They had entered Valoran custody expecting the worst. Now they were leaving as the foundation of a new friendship between two civilizations. Through the shuttle window, Jake could see the horizon's edge waiting for them. The human ship looked small compared to the massive Valoran vessels surrounding it, but it was home. He felt a wave of relief knowing they would soon be back on board. Heading back to Earth? That was incredible, said one of the other Marines. A young woman named Lisa Chun. When you walked without your armor, Jake, I thought you were crazy. But it worked. It actually worked. I was crazy, Jake admitted. But sometimes crazy is what is needed. Kate smiled from behind her helmet. Crazy or not, you opened a door for humanity. The Valorans were ready to dismiss us as weak newcomers. Now they know better. They respect us. They fear us too, Ben added. We need to be careful about that. Respect mixed with fear can be dangerous. It can lead to suspicion or preemptive strikes. We need to prove over and over that we are friends, not threats. We will, Jake said. This is just the beginning. There will be more meetings, more negotiations, more chances to build trust. It will take time, but we will get there. The shuttle docked with the horizon's edge, and the Marines filed out. Captain Hayes was waiting for them in the docking bay. He was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes, but when he saw his crew safe and whole, he smiled. Welcome back, he said. I got the report from Lieutenant Morrison. Sounds like you had an interesting few days? That is one way to put it, sir, Jake said. The Empress sent a formal communication, the captain continued. She apologized for the misunderstanding and confirmed that preliminary diplomatic relations are established. She also specifically mentioned you, Corporal Martinez. She said you showed remarkable restraint and dignity. Those were her exact words. Jake felt embarrassed. He had just done what seemed right at the time. He had not expected to be praised for it. I was just defending our reputation, sir. You did more than that. You made first contact successful. You turned a potential enemy into a potential ally. That is huge, Corporal. Earth is going to hear about this. Hell, the whole galaxy is going to hear about this. The captain was right. Over the next few weeks, as the Horizon's Edge made its way back to Earth, word spread through the galactic community. The story of the human soldier who removed his armor and walked through a challenge became famous. Different species interpreted it in different ways. Some saw it as a demonstration of human strength and resilience. Others saw it as a warning about what humans were capable of. A few saw it as proof that high-gravity species could be formidable. Changing assumptions that had stood for thousands of years, the term Death Worlders became associated with humans. It was not an official designation, just a nickname that stuck. Humans came from a death world, a planet that would kill most species. And yet they had not just survived, they had thrived. They had built a civilization, developed technology, and reached the stars. This changed how other species approached humanity. Some wanted to learn from humans to understand how they could be so resilient. Others wanted to avoid humans, fearing what such a powerful species might do. And a few wanted to test humans, to see if the stories were true. Jake experienced this firsthand when the Horizon's Edge stopped at a trading station near the border of known space. The station was neutral ground where many different species gathered to trade goods and information. When Jake and a few other Marines went to explore, they attracted attention immediately. Aliens of all types stared at them. Some whispered to each other. Some kept their distance. A few approached with curiosity, asking questions about Earth and human capabilities. One alien, a reptilian creature with green scales and bright orange eyes, walked right up to Jake and spoke in accented English. "You are the human from the story? The one who walked for the Valoran princes?" "I am one of many humans," Jake said carefully. "But yes, I was there. Is it true you did not struggle? That you carried weight through their ship like it was nothing? Their gravity is lower than what I am used to." "It was not difficult." The reptilian made a hissing sound that might have been laughter. "My people come from a world with gravity only slightly higher than the Valoran standard. To us, you would seem like a giant, incredibly strong. This is fascinating and terrifying." "I am just a regular human," Jake protested. "There is nothing special about me." "That is what makes it terrifying," the alien said. "If all humans are like you, then humanity as a whole is formidable. The galaxy will need to adjust to having such a powerful new species among us." This conversation repeated itself many times during the stop at the trading station. Jake became tired of explaining that humans were not looking for conflict, that strength did not equal aggression. But he understood why aliens were concerned. In a galaxy where most species had evolved on comfortable, moderate worlds, humans were an anomaly. When the Horizon's Edge finally reached Earth, Jake was relieved to be home. The ship entered orbit, and he looked down at the blue and green planet below. From space, Earth looked peaceful and beautiful. It was hard to believe that aliens considered it a death world, but when he really thought about it, Jake could see their point. The gravity that felt normal to him would crush many species. The oxygen-rich atmosphere that he breathed easily would be toxic to others. The weather patterns that he had grown up with would seem extreme and dangerous. Earth was a harsh world. Humans had just adapted so well that they forgot how harsh it was after landing. Jake and his squad were debriefed by military intelligence. They spent hours answering questions about the Valorans, their technology, their culture, and their military capabilities. Then they met with diplomatic officials who wanted to know every detail of the conversations with Princess Vera and Empress Kirani. Finally, Jake was called to meet with a general who wanted to hear the story directly from him. "Corporal Martinez," the general said, "your actions have had significant impact on humanity's position in the galaxy. You demonstrated human capabilities in a way that gained respect without provoking hostility. That is a difficult balance, and you achieved it. Well done. Thank you, sir. I was just trying to correct a misunderstanding. You did more than that. You showed aliens that humans are not to be underestimated, but also that we can be trusted. That combination is valuable, very valuable. The general paused, then continued. The Valorans have sent their ambassador to Earth. She arrived yesterday and has been meeting with our government officials. Can you guess who she is? Jake had a suspicion. Princess Vera? Correct. She specifically requested to be the first Valoran. Ambassador to Earth? She said she wants to learn more about humans and our world. She also said she wants to train in higher gravity environments so she can adapt. She is serious about understanding us. That is good news, sir. It is. And there is more. The Valoran Empire has introduced us to other species in the galactic community. We are receiving communications from dozens of civilizations, all wanting to establish contact. Some are friendly, some are cautious, but they all want to know more about the Deathworlders who made it to space. Jake felt a mix of pride and concern. Pride that humanity was being recognized, but concern about the expectations being placed on them. What happens now, sir? He asked. Now we build relationships. We prove that humans can be good neighbors and valuable allies. We share our knowledge and learn from others. And we stay ready just in case some species decides we are too dangerous to exist. You think some might try to attack us? It is possible. Throughout history, powerful newcomers often face challenges from established powers who feel threatened. We need to be prepared for that possibility while working toward peace. It is a delicate situation. Jake nodded. He understood. Humanity had entered a larger world, a galactic community with its own politics, conflicts, and dangers. The next few years would be crucial in determining humanity's place in that community. A few days later, Jake attended a formal ceremony at the United Earth Government headquarters. Princess Vera was there, along with dozens of human and Valoran officials. The ceremony marked the official establishment of diplomatic relations between Earth and the Valoran Empire. During the ceremony, Vera gave a speech. She stood at a podium, speaking slowly to account for the higher gravity she was experiencing. She had been training with weight suits to adapt, but Earth's gravity was still challenging for her. On behalf of the Valoran Empire, I extend greetings to humanity, she said. Our first meeting was filled with misunderstandings and mistakes. But through patience, communication, and mutual respect, we have found common ground. Humans have shown us that strength can be tempered with wisdom, and that newcomers to the galaxy can offer fresh perspectives. We welcome Earth to the galactic community, and we look forward to a long friendship between our peoples.